California's Gold is produced in association with KCET Los Angeles and is seen statewide on California Public Television. This series is endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the California School Boards Association, and the California Library Association. I love the open spaces of the California desert. And heading east from Indio on the I-10, believe me, there is a lot of open space. Open space as far as the eye can see, in all directions. Now, we were heading out into the desert in search of jojoba. And as we took the desert center exit, that's the one with all the dead palm trees planted in a circle, and headed down Highway 177, our spirits were high, because we'd heard there was lots of jojoba planted in huge fields beside the road. But boy, were we in for a shock. They're all dead. It's dry as a bone over here. There's not a speck of green anywhere in this field, and there's another one the same size on the other side of the highway. We got some big fields of dead jojoba. But since this is a jojoba adventure, where we're going to find out exactly what jojoba is, what it's used for, why it's grown in the desert, we've got to find not fields of dead jojoba, but fields of live jojoba. And that's what the rest of this adventure is all about. We're going in search of green, living jojoba. I knew there had to be some live jojoba nearby, so we headed into and quickly through the town of Desert Center. And then we got on Kaiser Road, and after a few miles driving through some really empty terrain, we got off Kaiser Road onto an even smaller road, bumped along through the dust, and finally saw something off in the distance, civilization. And what ended up being fields and fields and fields of live, healthy jojoba. Give us a wave. We have hit the jojoba jackpot. We found some live people and a beautiful, green, living, thriving jojoba plant in the middle of a whole field of them. Introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Donna Charpied. Nice to
meet
see you,
you.
I'm Larry Charpied.
Nice to meet you, the Charpieds. Now, you know, this whole adventure, we are in search of living jojoba. So far today, we've seen a lot of dead jojoba. It's everywhere once you start looking for it out here in the desert. Bring us all up to speed on why there's so much jojoba out here in the desert.
Back in the 70s, when the government banned importation of sperm whale oil, they needed a substitute. The sperm whale oil was used in the military and nukes and NASA. So they gave a 7-to-1 tax incentive to have people come out and research and develop jojoba as a substitute.
So it was all about a tax break to grow jojoba to replace the oil that they didn't want to continue taking from sperm whales.
That's correct.
So what happened? All these jojoba ranches, farms, sprung up out here in the California desert?
Oh, you bet there were jojoba farmers from Chicago that were doctors, lawyers.
They didn't know anything about jojoba.
Knew nothing about farming nor jojoba.
They just liked that 7-to-1 tax write-off.
You bet.
So what happened? I mean, some of these fields, as far as the eye can see, of jojoba.
Well, you know, what happened is they planted seed. And whenever you start from seed, from a plant that's thousands of years old, it has all those genetic variations. So you had every kind of different jojoba you could ever imagine. So in a farm, you need uniformity, like your grapes, it's the same plant over and over. So there was all this mishmash. You couldn't do anything, so they basically failed.
So all of these things went belly up because nobody knew what they were doing.
Plus, they really didn't care because, like you said, that 7-to-1 tax write-off, as soon as the plants were grown, they didn't give a darn anymore because they made big money.
They made the money initially off the tax write-off.
And the promoters. the promoters made millions of dollars. They used to fly around here in helicopters overlooking their fields.
What do you mean the promoters?
The people who went around saying jojoba is the savior, we're going to be able to do all these wonderful things, which you really can do. It is a renewable resource, but nobody ever thought that, like 100 years ago or hundreds of years ago, the Native Americans didn't go out in a desert and find corn, plant the seed, and said each stalk's going to have 6 ears. It had to hybridize. What they did with jojoba is they went out there in the wild and got like Larry said, every mishmash of Mother Nature can possibly conceive and try to do it culturally, and you just can't.
Mass farming, it just didn't work.
Well, that they could have. The Dr. Hermanos from University of Riverside was on the right track. He went out into the desert and he found plants, made cuttings from them, and then brought them back and then started building off of there. Though Hermanos, like the Israelis and the University of Arizona, what they did is they started with a very small gene pool and then went from there. What we have done is we've taken what they had plus what we found, much broader gene pool. That's why we came up with a 62% oil content plant, whereas the average in jojoba is 50.
So there are not many. Let's walk down here because there's some beautiful jojoba here. There's not much jojoba being grown anymore, is there?
No, not in California.
Are you about the last jojoba holdouts?
Yes, we are. And this is actually a research mother block, and what we aspire to be is the nursery to supply the growers when jojoba starts going again, because it is a biodiesel. If we would revamp all of this acreage in Chuckawalla Valley, I think 6,000 acres was planted, I'll bet you within 3 to 4 years we could run Riverside County's fleet on it.
Just from the jojoba oil, because I've seen jojoba oil ingredients in shampoos and scrubs and all this kind of stuff. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about jojoba.
Yes.
Now, there's male and there's female. I've done my research. Is this a male or a female?
This is a male plant.
Now, how did you...
Now, how you can tell is that its flowers are like little fists. You see a bunch of little fists there. The female flower, which is the plant over there, is long, wispy. In fact, here we have a female plant right over here.
So this is a male, and do you plant like male, female, female?
No, we select our males just as we do for the females to make it a economically viable plant. So we have maybe 2% males. We have them interspersed around, and we actually will harvest the pollen and apply it ourselves instead of letting it up to Mother Nature.
Now, didn't you say this is old stuff? Jojoba is old?
It is so old. It is a wind-pollinated plant, which indicates that it was around before insects.
Before insects.
Isn't that incredible?
So it wasn't pollinated by insects, it was pollinated by the wind.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Wow. Now, how much, I got a lot of jojoba questions.
Oh, we'll try to give you answers.
Well, how much water does it take to grow? Because look how green everything is here.
Well, like today it's probably about 110 degrees. We don't irrigate in the summertime. That's what's so wonderful about jojoba. It doesn't compete for water in the summertime.
So it likes heat.
Yes, in fact, its taproot gets to be up to 40 feet deep. That's how it survives in the desert heat when there's no rains. And when it rains in the desert, it's real fast and it just runs off. Doesn't benefit the plant. In the wintertime, it's the complete opposite of your citrus or any other conventional food. That's when jojoba is the most active.
Wow. Let's walk around here. Tell me some more jojoba facts.
It's very important to keep in mind, going to be a biodiesel. Right now, we're getting 150 gallons per acre. The best they do with soybean is 100. You got to plant it every year, and you got to water it in the summertime with a broadleaf. So this uses less water. It's perennial. You don't have to plant it, and we're getting more gallons per acre.
See, I never even thought of this. You're thinking of it as a alternative for energy, as a fuel alternative.
That's the whole reason why we started jojoba. Cosmetics is a secondary use for jojoba. It is a renewable resource.
It's a biodiesel, and the reason why we sell it cosmetically is because we get $640 a gallon. No one's going to burn that in their car.
Yeah.
Jojoba is native only to the deserts of Arizona, Mexico, and California.
So this is it. This is the only place in the world.
That's why we moved here from Santa Barbara almost 30 years ago.
For jojoba?
To study this plant. Joshua Tree National Park, it was National Monument when we moved here,
right over here,
contains jojoba everywhere. And we would go and you're not allowed to harvest or do anything to plants within the park, so they're untouched, untrammeled by man. And that's where we studied a lot of jojoba at first throughout the different seasons to see how they acted.
You may have have been some of the first people to really study it and think about it long range rather than all these get-rich-quick people. I bet you there are a lot of people watching right now who lost a lot of money in jojoba.
Every time we're at the farmer's market, someone comes up to us and says, you know, back in the 70s, we lost our patootie in this whole thing.
Yeah.
We've heard that a lot. And, you know, and the reason why we started doing all this studying is when we moved here, well, we didn't have water and electricity for the first 18 months. It was just amazing. And we got jobs working heavy labor in the jojoba fields. And we were noticing, one of the first observations we made was only half of the jojoba would have seeds on it. Then we realized, well, the wind was blowing that way during the window of opportunity for
getting pollinated.
And then we realized that heck, there's more than half of these plants or mills aren't going to give you any seeds whatsoever. And then we started investigating a little more and learned about cuttings, met some of the finest people involved in jojoba and universities, and people from around the world.
See, these are actually beautiful plants
Oh,
if you
yeah.
planted them in your yard. I mean, they've got a nice look to them.
It's a drought-tolerant evergreen shrub. I want to make it clear, though, the idea of jojoba being a biodiesel, also as a small family farm, we make a nice living off of growing this jojoba. We process it, we go to the farmer's market, we have a very nice life because of it. So
Everybody that I've told I was coming to look at jojoba, they all know the word jojoba, as they say on the East Coast, jojoba.
right, that's correct.
Do you have a lot of people coming out to look at your jojoba?
Yes, we have lots of them.
How do you
Absolutely.
politely tell them the correct way to pronounce it?
Well, we just say the J's are pronounced like an H. You know, we don't try to embarrass people at all. 'Cause it's very easy to make that mistake.
We tell them at Christmas we add an extra ho. It's ho-ho-hoba. So that right away they get it.
All right, enough of this. We've been standing out in the jojoba field, and boy, it goes how far out? How much do you have here?
We have 10 acres here.
10 acres here. There were thousands of acres here 20, 30, 40 years ago, but these 10 acres are alive and well, and we're going to leave the, I guess you call this the jojoba field, right?
Correct.
And now we're going to go watch the jojoba harvest. You're just hitting the jojoba. Do you call it jojoba bush, jojoba tree?
Well, you know, traditionally it's a bush, but we select for tree because when you have tree shape, you get better recovery.
What are you doing here? Look at all this.
This is to get them off the bush,
Get what off the bush?
the jojoba seeds. See all these little yellow orange things or brown things falling?
Oh, these.
Yeah.
These are jojoba seeds. Is that what jojoba comes from?
That's where jojoba comes from.
Now you're raking it.
Right. We windrow it on the side of each plant.
So you just rake the seeds right out from underneath the jojoba that you've just knocked off there. Now we're scooping up the seeds and dirt and rock and everything else and putting them in. What do you call these, Larry?
These are just screens that we made. We use the old Dubai wall or tea-tape, and it just keeps them together.
What are you shaking?
This is the seeds with twigs, rocks, debris,
Uh-huh.
and we'll separate these later when we get up.
So this is pretty basic stuff. And what, Donna, what are you standing by waiting to do?
Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chomp on all these things and get some of the hulls, get some of that big stuff broken up. Then I'm going to shake it again, get all of the excess dust and the little gravel out, pull it out as many twigs and the large rocks as I can, and then deposit it into our hopper over there.
So this is, you all have got a little assembly line thing
Absolutely.
going here.
Absolutely.
So you really got to shake it down.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And then what do you do with
Then
it?
you want to get these big rocks out, then I take it over here. And pour it inside here.
Oh, look. You got a whole little, look, this is a whole little harvest thing going here.
And it's electric. You don't smell it, you don't hear it. It's just very cool to have electric instead of the tractor or a car or
Oh,
truck.
that's electric.
Correct.
Well, there's electricity in the air, too. There's a lot of excitement going on.
Yes, there
There's
is.
a lot of heat going on
A lot of heat.
too. You have to get used to the heat when you do this, don't you?
Absolutely. This is much better as a winter sport than a summer sport.
But you kind of do it year round.
Absolutely. Keeps us out of trouble, Huell.
Whoa. Look at this. And you have to do this, and this is basically the old-fashioned way. Up one row and down another. This just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it's perpetual motion. We do have big harvesters over there that were made, vacuum shakers and all that, but it's just so noisy and so dirty. It's much nicer this way.
Yeah, this is the way.
100% recovery.
Yeah, this is the way they used to do it. When I say they used to do it, how long have they been harvesting jojoba?
For as long as it's been alive, I believe.
Thousands of years.
I believe so. We know the Native Americans, they used it to make bread. They used the oil for their hair. They made coffee with the meal after they pressed it. And they also would take jojoba seed, which contained simonzin, which is an appetite suppressant. So when they went from Blythe to Coachella, they would eat these seeds because on the 100-mile trek, instead of take food that the animals would want to get or whatever, you know.
Can you eat one of these?
This has got the skin on it, right? And so we got a machine that will break it and blow that off.
Now, can I eat
And that's ready to go. Yeah.
What does that taste like?
Tastes like maybe a hazelnut, a little bit bitter, very hard.
So the Native Americans ate these?
Absolutely.
I've never heard of eating jojoba before.
Man, you got to get up to speed on this one.
Wow, I'm getting up to speed. I'm trying. I just ate my first jojoba, what do you call them, nut?
Seed, whatever.
Seed.
You know
They're
what?
good.
They're delicious. We eat them all the time. They remind me of a filbert.
Yeah.
And once you start eating jojoba seeds, you are truly a jojoba witness.
Our first bad jojoba joke. Okay, we've left the field, and here's the next step, Larry. We're watching. You got the machinery going.
So this is how we'd separate most of the debris. With little twigs, stuff like that.
So you're just pouring all of that stuff that Donna's been jumping up and down on in the screen.
You want a mask?
Look at all this over here. What is this?
This is just the trash, basically.
The
Hulls, leaves, twigs, you know.
I got you. Boy, this is an old-timey machine.
Yeah, it was handmade.
Oh, standing underneath the blower. All right, let's see what we got here. We're gonna take that.
Well, first I gotta blow it again. There's still a lot of debris. There was so much debris the first time, so I put it through twice.
There are rocks in here. Look at all these rocks. So you've got rocky soil out here.
If we don't make it on jojoba, we can always go into the mining of rocks, huh?
Okay, now we've left the machine. We put it through a second time, and what are we doing over? Donna's taking over. Donna, what are you doing?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this bucket into this trough of water.
Look at this. We got a trough of water here.
And what's going to happen is all the stones are going to sink, the seeds are going to float, and then I'm going to put them on a drying screen.
Here, hold this a minute. I'm going to do this for you. How do I do it? Just pour it out?
Just pour it right in there. Perfect. Perfect, Huell. Oh, man, you'd make a wonderful jojoba farmer, Huell.
So look, the seeds float to the surface. The rocks stay at the bottom. This is
simplistic.
It ain't rocket surgery, but it works.
Exactly.
Wow.
And what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to get those seeds that got stuck underneath the rocks.
Boy, you have learned all the tricks of the trade.
Now this is a good summer sport. It's nice and wet. Now you got to see what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick up all of these seeds and I'm going to take them over to this table right behind you.
Don't drop any of them.
Oh no. And we're just going to stick them right there for now.
Do you spread them out?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, look, here are your dry ones.
Right, exactly.
Over here.
We have to let them dry a day because they're wet now and they'd be too soft when we put them through the huller. It breaks them.
Look at the color of these things. They're almost purple, aren't they?
Well, you know, these are kind of old. When they first come out, they're reddish, and then as the sun gets on them, you could see some of these that are just barely coming out.
Yeah, look at these over here, the ones that are still wet. Boy, this is so beautiful, and to think that this is where the jojoba oil comes from. Now, how long do you leave them out here?
Well, this time of year, it could go a half a day. Normally, we leave them out overnight.
And just let them dry out.
Correct.
Exactly.
Boy, you get every last seed, don't you?
You bet your boots.
How often do you harvest these things? How many times do they get this kind of seed on them?
The crop it's a crop once a year.
Once a year.
And we seem to harvest year round because it's so hard to get people up here to do this hard work.
Well, I may have been okay doing this.
Yeah.
I don't know about the harvesting part.
Yeah, getting on your hands and knees is pretty tough.
Look at these jojoba beans.
You bet. These beans are ready for pressing. Now, when you saw all of the different processes we went through, the last thing we do is we lay them out on the drying tables and we pick out all the rotten ones, partially
Boy, there's nothing in here.
ones.
It's all clean.
And that's what makes it a quality oil.
And Larry is over here by the press, by the expeller. Now, Larry, what's going on over here? This looks pretty basic as well.
Right. This is a continuous feed auger press. What it does is just separates the oil from the jojoba meal.
Okay, so I'm
Ready?
just here to watch what you're doing. I don't know. Oh. This is like a coffee grinding machine.
It is. And the oil's coming out.
Oh, look! Jojoba oil!
The finest in the world.
It's brown.
Well, yes.
That's the natural color.
Well, you got a little bit of colloids and other things in there. That's why we go into the sink, we let it decant, and then we take the oil and filter it over there.
Can I put some in there?
Please.
So you just dip it right out, scoop it right out,
And just pour
and
'em
put
in.
it right in. Just like you're grinding coffee.
That's right.
And look at it over here. Boy, that is the real stuff. And boy, it is coming out. It's really coming out.
Good. I wanted to. The more the better, right?
And there it goes into the bottle.
Let me tell you what, after doing a zillion of these by hand, you get pretty good at it.
You hadn't spilled a drop.
I hope not.
He doesn't spill a drop, does he?
I'll dock his pay if he does.
Well, there it is. Now it's clear. It's got kind of a gold color to it. It's not that brown color anymore.
Well, you know what? We got a picture of a rainbow on this building, and this is the gold at the end of the rainbow.
But is this the natural color, or?
Yes. This is jojoba. This is what you would find in the stores. And you never want to get jojoba in a plastic container. Jojoba attacks it, absorbs the plasticine, and pretty soon you're putting plastic in you.
Wow.
Anything that goes in jojoba is going into you.
So you got it in glass bottles.
Oh, absolutely. It's all for the quality control. Like if you're somebody that has something wrong with your skin to begin with, and you put something that's inferior, it'll exacerbate that problem.
So how do people use this? Because here's the little bottle I saw you selling at the Santa Barbara Farmers Market.
Right. We go to Santa Barbara and the Ojai Certified Farmers Market. People use it for a variety of reasons. We have testimonials from people with eczema, psoriasis, acne, various scalp and skin conditions where they've gotten relief or the problem has completely gone away.
How do you put it on?
The
Put a
yellow
little bit
color.
of it. How do you?
You want to just put a drop like that. You don't want
Here,
it to
hold
go.
this a minute.
I
Is
actually
that
gave
too
you a lot,
much?
but you could rub that all over your arms, your legs. It's good for your skin. The yellow color is actually vitamin E that's in it naturally. That's what helps promote healthy skin.
I'm feeling rejuvenated already.
You look younger already, Huell.
Wow.
This stuff is great for shaving. Put it on before you shave. Hot water, no irritation. Capful or two in the normal shampoo acts as a solvent around the follicle, keeps the hair
See,
healthy.
it's used in shampoos, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
But when you go to the stores, it's just a small amount of jojoba in the product.
Exactly.
They might have just ran a bean by it. You know?
And said it had jojoba in it.
Sure.
We recommend you put a capful or so in your normal shampoo and shake the bottle real well, and you'll get some treatment every time you shampoo. I don't use conditioners
Doesn't
anymore.
smell.
Some people can detect the nutty odor from the seeds, but most people don't smell anything. A lot of people like to get lavender or rose hips or something like that.
How long does this last on your skin?
In 10 minutes, that'll absorb in and you won't feel oily, but your skin will be very nice.
And you're getting a natural sun protection factor of 3 to 5, which means about 45 minutes. When you buy the one that says SPF 36, it's got words this big they made up in the laboratory. So I don't know if putting those chemicals on is good or bad, but if you use jojoba more frequently, every hour, you'll get natural sunblock.
Boy, look
Let me
at
get some
this.
lids here.
Look at this. This is the bottle. It's just been put in there out of the vat. We've watched it from start to finish today, and there it is, our finished bottle of jojoba. All it needs is a top on it and a label. Well, we've seen it all from boom to bust, back to boom again. Thanks to Larry and Donna and their jojoba farm. I guess you call it a farm. It's a ranch or a farm?
It's a farm.
It's a farm, and it's called Lorana, which means what?
Larry and Donna Jojoba Company.
You combined your names.
That's correct.
Very original. You're out here working in it day in and day out, and I think, well, look at this background with the Joshua Tree National Park behind you, with the clouds, with the blue skies.
The exterior decorator did a fine job.
All's right with the world.
Yes, it is.
And here is this amazing oil, these amazing plants, these ancient plants, which grow only in parts of Mexico, Arizona, and California.
That's right. That's where it's native to.
We've got it right here in California. This beautiful jojoba oil, good for the skin, good for the heart, good for the soul. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Huell. It was a pleasure.
I'm just glad we found you.
So are
and
we.
we found some live, thriving jojoba out here in the desert.
Spread the word, my friend.
We'll spread the word that jojoba is back.
All right.
Jojoba, a fine example of California's gold. It's all about jojoba. It's ancient, it's historic, it's very California. And if you'd like to go on this jojoba adventure again, share it with family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library. It's available on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.